Every problem I've ever had in my life was solved through a book. The moment when I felt stuck in my life, there was a book for that. When I felt like my content wasn't that good and I wanted it to be better, there was a book for that. But I didn't know where to go next in my business, there was a book for that too. And in those moments where you just want to escape, there was a book for that too. Now that last one, don't judge me, my wife got me into it. Every single problem that we face can be solved with the right book. These people that we normally would spend tens if not millions of dollars on to get us to mentor us are writing books, and they're dropping lesson upon lesson in each one of the books. I didn't realize this until I was almost 30. See, growing up, I've always hated reading books. When I was a kid and we'd have a book, we had to do a book club. Don't tell my teachers this, but I never read the book. All I would do, and luckily the internet came around at this time, is I'd read some cliff notes about the book, and then I would kind of fill in the middle part and just make up the story. Funny thing was, I was always relatively close, so I got a passing grade. Then you fast forward over to college when we're forced to read certain books just to pass a grade. And again, I didn't really read it. I would just kind of skim through, pick up the parts that I needed, and then kind of go on about my day. And honestly, it wasn't until I got my first big boy job that everything changed. You see, I had a mentor that wanted me to become a leader well before I was one. He saw something in me that nobody else did, and he said, you need to start reading some books. And he gave me my first book that I actually read and got something out of. The book was called Sell Like Crazy by Grant Cardone. Funny enough, today I don't really like that book all that much. And I think the way that he talks about sales is completely wrong. But at the time, it really changed everything for me. It started giving me a different mentality in how I should sell and how I should approach work, which then led me to the next book that I started reading on my own that I chose, which was Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. This book single-handedly changed the way that I saw leadership and what I thought leadership was. But again, it put me on a path to change the way that I thought about myself, the way that I approached life, changed everything for me. And once again, it put me on the right path. And that's kind of the point here. Every single book that I have read has motivated me in some way, has changed the way I thought about the world, or myself for that matter, and put me on a path that allowed me to be a little bit more successful. Somewhere around the line though, I kind of realized that if you don't have a good framework for capturing, making the most out of the books that we read, they're as good as just the paper that they're on, which is pretty much worthless, or $20 depending on where you end up buying it. So I started changing the way that I started reading books so I can get the most out of every single thing that I read. So normally what would happen is I'd find a really interesting part of a book that I thought, oh man, this is going to be life-changing. This is really great. I'd read it and then, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds later, I'm on to the next thing and I've already forgotten it. There is a better path to do this. And so now what I do is I take that quote and I write it out on a piece of paper, or my Remarkable 2, because I'm obsessed with it right now. And the reason I write it out word for word instead of just copying and pasting or taking a picture of it is because I want to write in the author's tone of voice, so it stays with me more. Listen, don't ask me the science behind why this sticks in our brains a little bit better. It just does, for me at least, and you should probably just try it for yourself. Now, once I have the quote down, I'm just going to ask myself 3 questions. 1, how does this impact my life? This allows me to connect with the actual quote itself. Just brain dump anything that kind of comes to mind when we're reading. Sometimes when I'm brain dumping kind of everything about the quote and how I connect to it, it reminds me of the past. It reminds me of something that I went to in an experience. And because of that, I'm going to remember a little bit more. The second 2 questions, though, are kind of important. So something I picked up in college was I realized that the best way to learn something is to teach it. And so the next 2 questions are kind of around that. Number 2 is who else could benefit from this? A friend, a colleague, or maybe just a group of people that online that maybe I don't know, a type of audience. But I'm going to write down who those people are and how I think it can impact them. And the third and final question I'm going to ask myself, if I had to teach it, how would I go about doing it? How would I teach them the concept that this book is trying to come across? If I could do that, then I truly understand it. And what I found is that it helps me be able to share the wisdom that I get from these books. And because I'm sharing it, I actually know it better. And how I know it worked was whenever I would be in a conversation with somebody and we'd be talking about whatever, I always have a book for that. If they tell me what the problem is, I have a book that I can reference saying, hey, I think this might help you. There is a cheat code to success or getting what we want out of life. It's exposure. The more that we're exposed to people, ideas, concepts, the more likely it is that we'll find the success that we want. The problem is if you don't have the right exposure, if you don't have the right people around you, the truth is it gets really hard to come by that exposure. And that's where books come into play. You can easily pick up a book of your favorite author or someone that you want to emulate, a framework maybe that they have that you want to steal, that you know that if you just sat down, executed on that thing, you could change your life. But they're all here waiting for us. Whether you get them on Amazon or your local bookstore, it doesn't really matter. the key to success are within these books. If you take the time to notice them, it may just change your life. At least that's what it did for me. Anytime I feel down, unmotivated, I pick up a book, someone that I want to emulate, a concept that I know I need that will change my life. I read it, and it's almost like I start to think like that author for a little while. And at least it gives me the momentum to take action and change my life. Now, I don't know if this is going to work for you. I don't know if the questions will improve your life, but I promise you, if you do spend the time to actually get the most out of what you read, you may just change. As always, appreciate you watching. Make sure you take some time, go in the comments below, let me know how you get the most out of what you read. And with that, like always, I'll catch you in the next video.